Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, 3D PDF, Myth versus Truth. Can a 3D PDF really do it all? Join Jordan Opsahl from Tetra4D as he discusses some of the myths and truths around 3D PDFs. Here's the reason why so many companies from Boeing, GE, BE, Aerospace to Trimble have made the switch to this secure open format to share and store their CAD data. Join us to understand everything you need to know about 3D PDF and how to benefit from this movement. Presenting our webinar today are Jordan Opsahl, who has worked for Tetra4D for over 3 years, providing expertise on the end user side of the business, Tetra4D, and Phil Spryer, who is the technical director for the 3D PDF Consortium. You are in very good hands today with this team of experts. And before we get going, now this is Phil, and before we get going, here's an overview of what we do in Novedge, and this is the product page where you can find the product featured today, Tetra4D. Novedge is one of the largest online stores for design software, and we offer a huge assortment of software solutions that cater to virtually every designer's need. Come visit our webpage at novedge.com, and for more daily software news and limited time promotions, pay a visit to the Novedge blog and follow us on Facebook, Google+, and Twitter. Coming up next week, interior design, it's not just kitchen design, with Vectorworks guru Jonathan Pickup. Last but not least, today's webinar is free and will be recorded. So if you want to rewatch it, just visit our Novedge YouTube and Vimeo channel. And now, without further ado, I'm going to share Jordan's screen. Take it away, Jordan. We're very excited.
Great. Thank you, Barbara. All right. Well, welcome everybody to 3D PDF Myths versus Truths. We're going to go through a quick housekeeping item with today's agenda, and we'll dive right in. So we're going to do some welcome and introductions. We have 5 myths to talk about today around 3D PDF. We have a couple demos, but a more deeper demo at the very end, and we encourage everybody to ask questions, and we'll provide answers at the end of the webinar. So as Barbara mentioned, my name is Jordan Opsahl. I do technical marketing here for Tetra4D on our end user product line, Tetra4D, and joining us today is also Phil Spryer.
Hi everybody, I'm Phil Spryer. I'm the technical director for the 3D PDF Consortium. We do evangelization and promotion of 3D PDF in the engineering workspace, as well as working on the 3D PDF standards. So I'm very happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks, Phil. All right, well, to get things started, before we jump in, I'd kind of like to get a gauge from everybody and see how many of you are currently using 3D PDF. So Barbara's going to go ahead and start a poll, and if you take a moment and please answer if you're currently using 3D PDF or not, and we'll give you guys a little bit of time to answer.
All right. Looks like most of our attendees are not currently using 3D PDFs. We have 18% yes and 82% no. So off to a good start. This is the right place for you if you want to find out more about 3D PDF.
Great. Well, that's exciting. I'm glad that there's a lot of people on the call today that don't know about 3D PDF, so I think this will be a great introduction. So we'll come right into our first myth. Myth number 1, I don't need 3D PDFs. I send 2D drawings and native CAD data. This is true. You don't need 3D PDF. You probably have a process that's currently working for you, sharing drawings, sharing screenshots, doing web conferences, whatever that may be. But companies that have fully adopted and utilizing 3D PDF, they're seeing savings in 10 to 20 times in return on time and money saved. And in fact, 2D drawings are still widely used in manufacturing, and that shift to 3D, it's not going to come for quite some time. But there are, however, some top aerospace and automotive companies that have moved completely away from 2D drawings to only 3D, and they've adopted what we refer to as drawingless manufacturing. And these larger aerospace and defense companies call this MBD, or model-based definition. And until we all make this shift, what we're seeing a lot of companies doing is combining both the 2D drawing files and the 3D PDF, And some companies are even including the native CAD data and wrapping everything up into a container, which is really what PDF is delivering all that information inside one container. So we're going to see how this has evolved over the years and how we've gotten to 3D PDF today. So we're seeing dramatic improvements in how we're delivering engineering data, and this has taken some time, but as we mentioned, many companies are still using 2D drawings, which is just fine, and combining them into a binder. So, okay, this is great. We've collected all the data, and it's more organized. And over the years, we saw a shift into companies starting to do this digitally. And what most of you are probably doing is sharing your 2D drawings inside a PDF. So this is much more efficient in electronic form. But now that everything is designed in 3D and 3D applications, many companies are starting to see the value, and customers are demanding being able to provide all that same information that's contained inside your drawing, but it happens to have an interactive 3D PDF, and all of it still consumed inside Acrobat Reader. So we're going to show you a quick demo of how you create a 3D PDF with one of our tools and exactly what a 3D PDF looks like. So with our Tetra4D Converter, we support over 20 CAD formats. There's a variety of ways you can create one. File, create PDF from file. Or you can grab your directory here, and you can drag and drop a CAD file into the application. Or I think the easiest way is to right-click and say Convert to 3D PDF. So we're going to get our converter tools here, and I'm not going to go through all these in a lot of detail, but we can control the background color. We can change the lighting and how we want the lights to appear. The rendering style, if we want solid outline, illustration, and these can be adjusted as you get into the document too. We have our view orientation, so it knows it's a CATIA file. I want to set my views being rendered as CATIA, and some other default options as well. We have a template option. Phil's going to talk about security and how you can secure your document. From here, we get to control what information you want imported. We have full support for PMI and views, solid surfaces. And then finally, what type of PDF do you want? Do you want geometry or just a tessellated model? And then finally, we have compression. Usually we take files down to about 95, 98% of the original CAD file size. So it's going to happen very quickly, but Converter is going to translate this into our 3D PDF. So we can go ahead and activate it. The first thing you're going to see is this 3D toolbar. So this just changes how you navigate the document. We can change from pan to zoom in and interrogate this a little bit more. We have some other options in the toolbar as well. So for example, we can take a measurement. A really great collaboration tool is creating a 3D comment. So we can come up here, add a comment, and say, if we were curious what material this particular part is. We can enter that in right here and say, whoops, what material? Select OK. So now we have that 3D comment, and it actually got saved as a view, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I can have access to my views here, so that 3D comment was just created, and those are all the views native to our CAD file. And then, as I mentioned, we can change the rendering style back, and then finally we can cross-section and create cutting planes in our model. So I'm going to hit the model tree here and open this up into Adobe Acrobat Professional. This would look the same in Reader as well. We can select in the model tree and have it highlight into our 3D model. And this will change as I move through the model and select on the tree. It'll highlight those different parts. You also notice we have a view panel. So again, these are all of our views that were native to our CAD file. We can go ahead and select the bottom view or even the ISO 3D. And that new 3D comment that I made, that's stored inside our view panel here. So again, there's still a lot of value in being able to provide this over a 2D drawing. Go ahead and go back to our home view. The last thing I want to point out is that you can also populate some attributes or metadata that was native to that CAD file. So again, the idea here is that you can still include all of your drawings inside this PDF, but having this interactive 3D model with all those CAD views is a very, very valuable tool for people. And Phil's going to tell us next about the next myth around 3D PDF.
Okay, myth 2 is I don't need a 3D PDF because I can just zip all my files together. And while it is true that zip files are one of the most used formats for grouping and storing multiple files, but for structured data, they're often confusing and maybe not the best format. You know, when I receive a zip file, the first thing that I have to do is figure out what each of those files in it are. And many times people put a readme.txt or some other kind of manifest that tells you what everything is, and you have to go back and refer to all that. In comparison to that, 3D PDF files are really good for structured data. You know, one of the lesser known features of 3D PDF is that you can compress and organize multiple files all into a single PDF file. And you can do that using one of two functions. First is called attachments, and that just attaches them. The second one is called portfolios. And portfolios allow you to put folders and other types of things into your PDF file in addition to documents. And it gives you a nice visual user interface that allows you to navigate through all that and makes it easy to understand. So let's take a quick look at how PDF stacks up against zip in this little chart here. Both formats are ISO standard, so you can be assured that you're going to be able to access your data again in the future. Both of them can contain multiple files and directories in a single file, and both are compressed. You know, both PDF and zip files use many of the same algorithms for compression, including the most common one, which is called flight compression. PDF uses that. If you zip a PDF file, you'll notice it doesn't get much smaller simply because it's already highly compressed. But PDF offers more features that make it a better choice for these complex and interrelated engineering data and documents. First, it's more secure format than zip. Both PDF and zip offer password protection, but in addition to that, PDF offers file encryption, certificate-based protection, so that only people with digital certificates that you issue can open the file, and even more. You can even restrict what users do after they open the PDF file, so you can restrict whether they can print it or edit it or do other types of things like that. And finally, PDF offers an interactive user interface for browsing, viewing, and launching all the attachments or all the files that are contained inside a PDF. All in all, it's really a superior format for compressed, secure sending of multiple files. So now let's go ahead and I'll do a quick little demonstration of the portfolio. And here you'll notice I created a portfolio here for what we call Mil Standard 31000A. It's a military TDP or technical data package. And when the Army requests or any part of the military requests something sends out an RFQ, they do it in what they call these TDPs, and it often has to put together a whole bunch of files. So in this you'll see up at the top we have a little interactive environment that we can look through, and it shows all the files that we have in this. The first one is this form. It's this Mil Standard 31000 form, and it's actually a fillable and viewable form there. You can go ahead and use this interface to cycle through your different models or files that are in your PDF file. Here you'll notice we moved on to this NIST into a 3D PDF. You can activate that, and you can move through the views and other things like Jordan just showed you in this previous demonstration. So all that feature functionality is already available there. You can also add folders, and here you'll see I've created a folder for 2D drawings, and you can put your drawings in there. And models and metadata, associated lists, all those things are available in here. You can go ahead and change the way you view these in a portfolio. Right now we're showing the details, but you can also look at it in a standard layout kind of a view. And then finally, you can look at what we call the cover sheet. And the cover sheet is what's displayed when a viewer doesn't support a portfolio. So if you were to open this and let's say Chrome, which does not support the viewing of the portfolios, this is what you would see, and it would tell people to go ahead and download Acrobat in order to better view that model. So let's go back to our detail view there. You can also do things, you can search the entire portfolio as well. So search functionality works across all the files inside your portfolio, and we'll find anything in there. And then finally, we'll take a quick look at the portfolio properties, and it should allow us to take a look at some of the things. We put titles and other things in here. This is all available. You can get this data via an XMP format. And you can also add security. Default is no security, but we can add the password or certificate security. And we'll go ahead and add password. And when we do that, you'll see that we can go ahead and require a password. We can restrict things so that it doesn't allow printing or only a specific resolution. And we can go ahead and see what changes they can allow. So they can insert or do pages and comments and all those types of things. You can specify directly in here. So when you're done, you have a single PDF file that contains a whole bunch of other files, and all in a single compressed and highly secure package. So we think that it's a really great way to deliver multiple documents in a single file.
Great. Thanks, Bill. All right, so myth 3. 3D PDFs are just 3D on a page. I need something much more interactive that includes design data. Well, this may have been true when 3D PDF was first introduced over a decade ago. 3D PDF has been around for quite some time. And since then, there have been quite a few improvements to this technology, and it's really made it very sophisticated and intelligent. For example, you can easily create these interactive elements in your PDF, like a bill of materials, or a view thumbnail, a view carousel, create these custom actions and buttons, and you even have the ability to import information, say from an outside system like an ERP or a PLM system. And in fact, you can create these templates that are designed for specific work groups that you can just populate and load new CAD data into. So in a moment, we're going to take you through a quick tour of what one of these intelligent PDFs look like and see how it was different from the one that we looked at earlier. But first, let's take a look at some examples and how customers are using this in the market today. So there are many uses for 3D PDF besides design review and collaboration. And what we're hearing from our customers and from the market is that users are demanding the need to create these more interactive 3D PDFs on their own that are designed for specific workflows. So for example, we have RFP, RFQs, technical documentation, spare part catalog, release to manufacturing, and that's just to name a few. And in the past, to create one of these types of documents, it required a lot of programming knowledge with JavaScript, or it required a very expensive enterprise solution. And I think that's why you probably haven't seen more of these in the market, as it's just been too difficult or too costly to create. So what we've done at TechSoft and with our Tetra tools is we've created plugins to Acrobat Professional that allow anyone to create these documents on your own without being an expert in programming, without knowing JavaScript, with these very simple tools. So now that we've seen some samples, let's go ahead and take a quick look and give you guys a tour of what one of these interactive 3D PDFs look like. So this is a technical data package that we created. We have our 3D scene that we saw earlier. We can easily go ahead and cycle through views with these easy access buttons. So again, these are our native CAD views, support for exploded views, and we have full support for that product and manufacturing information in there as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and change how we pan with this. So I can go ahead and cycle through my pan mode. Again, I can interrogate this by zooming in and out. And the idea is make these tools more easily accessible so that anybody can interact with it. So right now I quickly isolate a part. Say I wanted to change rendering styles to illustration. I can go solid outline to solid, quickly go back to my home view as well. So the next thing that I want to do is select on my bill of materials. You'll notice it's going to flash a bright green color to indicate that's the part that I'm selecting on. Right now I just selected the shaft, and so I know clearly that's the part that's associated to my BOM. And the last thing I want to show here for properties is that when I select on this part, it's pushing that property information into that text field there, and that changes as I move through each one of those parts. You also have the ability to search the document just right here in this PDF. So for example, I want to find all things made of steel. I know that those shafts and those bolts are made of steel inside of my model. And then last, we have just easier access to these views. Instead of having to navigate inside Acrobat, those views are easily accessible. And one thing that you're not seeing here is that we also have the original CAD file attached to this and also those 2D drawings that created this technical data package. So already I think you see that this is much more valuable than having just your 3D on a page and much easier for somebody to understand and consume, and again, doing this all on Acrobat Reader. So Barbara, we're going to start off with another poll, and we'd like to hear from you guys how you're currently sharing your CAD data.
All right, here we go. Okay, coming in the questions. Okay, so far we have a 60% of people using 2D drawings. Somebody's using 3D PDF, and somebody is still using zip folders. 20%, actually a few people saying the CAD viewer or native app is their solution. So, but most of them, I would say 50% 2D drawing, 13% 3D PDF, 13% zip folder, and 20% CAD viewer or native app.
Okay, great. Thank you, Barbara, and thank you to everybody who responded. That's very interesting, and 2D drawings are still widely used, and we're seeing a lot of folks just including this 3D PDF in addition to that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Phil's going to take us into our fourth myth.
All right. So our fourth myth is that creating 3D PDFs is costly and inefficient. And, that's really no longer true today. I'm not sure that that's ever been true, but certainly it's not today. Right now, we're seeing more and more CAD applications that are offering 3D PDF as their part of their base application. But even if you do need to purchase additional software to create 3D PDF, it has a really compelling return on investment or ROI that you should consider. First and foremost, it's always free to view using the Adobe Acrobat Reader. And because the reader is really ubiquitous, it's everywhere, and in most cases it can be viewed without the need to install additional software. And that includes even when you're viewing it in highly secure environments. So, one of the things that people like is that you can get to almost anybody. Anybody can view a 3D PDF. And there's really very little, if any, IT overhead associated with that. So like if you're giving somebody to somebody in the government or in large enterprise, many times if they can't understand that format, they have to install additional software on their system, like a CAD viewer or something else in order to do that. When you give them PDF, the chances are really high that they're already going to have the Adobe Reader on there, and you can save on the IT costs then for that viewing. So let's take a little bit of a look at some of the applications that are currently exporting 3D PDF as part of their native solutions. SolidWorks, Autodesk Inventor, Solid Edge, and PTC all have the ability to natively export 3D PDF from those applications. As we mentioned earlier, those exporters are great for design review and viewing CAD data for users who don't have a suite of the CAD. But again, many of those just do that 3D on a page that we talked about in that first myth. If your department creates any of the following documents that are listed on the right, you definitely have a need for creating a more intelligent file, and we think 3D PDF is the best way to do that. Later, Jordan will show you a little bit about how easy it is to create each one of those using the Tetra4D Enrich plugin as well. But as we mentioned earlier, in addition to the cost of software, one of the things you have to really take a look at is how much you're going to save on the other end. And there's a bunch of studies that talk about the ROI that you get with this 3D PDF and NVD. So first, on the left here, an Aberdeen study looked at the cost savings that are realized when you have fewer inaccuracy and fewer errors that are introduced when you use a 3D PDF as opposed to a 2D drawing. That study showed that 30 to 40% of part errors or nonconformances are due to inaccuracies and interpretation errors that you get using 2D drawings. And you have to remember that 2D drawings always require somebody, a person, to interpret those. And because of that, they're often subject to errors in that interpretation. And then you have to go back and request a new drawing or regenerate a drawing, in order to fix that. And that's often a very costly proposition. And on the right, large manufacturers such as GE, they've also reported they've reduced their tooling design times as much as 75% using those model-based methods. GE Power, as a matter of fact, has made a large investment in moving to 3D PDF, and they've seen huge cost savings from that. And it's even now featured in some of their annual reports and whatnot, what they're doing. They're pushing 3D PDF out into their whole organization. So cost savings are something you always need to look at in addition to what it's going to cost you to have that 3D PDF solution. Now let's talk about one specific program at BE Aerospace that really kind of illustrates this ROI of the 3D PDF. If you're not familiar with BE Aerospace, they manufacture seats for aircraft, and they were working with Boeing on a first-class seat. And these seats today, they're very, very complex. They have a lot of moving and mechanical, but they also have a lot of electrical parts. And Boeing wanted to ensure that all the seats would meet their different requirements for electrical integration. So They worked with BE on how they would do that. Now, in the past, what they would typically do is generate a 2D drawing and send that off to Boeing. And these drawings were often very large and very, very complex. If they had a question, they'd ask for a new drawing that would give them even more information. And the drawings could take days or even weeks to produce. And whenever there was an engineering change, those drawings also needed to be regenerated. So, the cost of generating these was really high. So Boeing and BE Aerospace took a look at turning it to 3D PDF for exchanging their engineering data. They thought they would see some benefits from using the 3D model as opposed to that 2D, and it turns out they were right. So they built a template that allowed them to integrate some BOM information into their PDF document, and they developed some custom JavaScript that allowed them to sort and filter the model based on different configurations. When they gave it to somebody, they could sort it and filter it and look at it and view it in different ways. So if you want to just see the grounds on the model, the electrical grounds, you could do that. Or if you just want to have the entertainment components in the seat shown, you could do that. Having a 3D model allowed them to interrogate the models whenever they needed more information, and they didn't have to go back and ask for new files or new drawings in order to do that. When they did identify a design change, they were able to go ahead and comment directly on the model, and they could do that by zooming in and creating views like Jordan showed you earlier. And that really removed all the ambiguity from their communications and became very efficient for them to do that. In the end, they ended up spending some money in order to develop the templates, and they spent some money in order to develop that custom JavaScript. But they were rewarded on that, and in the first year, they saw a return on investment over 10x just in that first year. And in subsequent years, that even went up. And they found this to be so successful, they moved this into all their seats they delivered to Boeing, including their coach class seats. So what we've seen with people who use 3D PDF and use MBD is that once they start using it, their cost savings tend to get higher and higher the more they use it, and they tend to use it more and more as a result of that. And it tends to permeate in through an organization and really becomes a preferred method for communicating. And now Jordan's going to talk a little bit more about some of the PLM integrations in large-scale models.
Great. Thank you, Phil. All right, so coming into our last myth, myth number 5, creating rich, intelligent 3D PDF requires an enterprise-level solution or JavaScript programming skills. And as we've mentioned, the free 3D PDF exporters that are in the market are great for design review and sharing one CAD file type with others. And typically, they're very easy-to-use tools, but the reality is that these aren't tools designed for creating these custom, interactive 3D PDF documents. And you actually don't need an enterprise-level solution to automate this process. In the past, it was very common that you'd have to have a very heavyweight enterprise solution in order to automate the process of creating these. We've developed another tool that allows you to create these templates very easily on your own, and then also a low server end that we'll be talking a server solution to automate this whole process. So now I'd like to jump into a demo on how you create one of these templates on your own and how to create one of these interactive PDFs. Okay, so anything that saves to PDF can be used as your template or your canvas. I'm in PowerPoint right now. I have some text icons, some boxes, some text fields. I'm just going to go File, Export to PDF. I'm going to give this a name and say Save. This is going to happen very quickly, but we're already inside Acrobat Professional. This is DC Professional. We go ahead and access Enrich. The converter tool comes with Enrich. First thing is I need to add my 3D. I'm going to draw the size of my window here, and I'm not bound by that frame. I'm going to grab this as a SolidWorks file here. These are all the over 20 CAD formats that are supported that you could convert into this 3D scene here. We already went over a lot of the converter options, so I'm not going to spend time going through these again. Phil already spoke about security, and we're going to show you how you can create a template right now. Again, control what information you want pulled over, and then finally, what type of PDF do we want? I'm going to go ahead and leave the solid geometry on. Compression is on. Everything looks to be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and trigger this conversion. And so again, the converter tool is included with Enrich, so that CAD data translation technology is included with this Enrich tool. So we're going to let this finish off, and it's going to go ahead and populate our CAD file into our 3D scene here. So now it's active. We have our 3D model. The first thing I wanted to do is add a parts list, a variety of ways. I'm just going to do a flat parts list. So again, I just draw the size of my bill of materials here. So it pulled in all that information from our CAD file, and now I get to format it. So I can change the size of the text here. I can change the type of font that I want. I can also change how I want this to be emphasized when I select on that. So I change that to green. I want this to flash like we saw in the sample earlier. And I also want to go ahead and show that you can edit this table. You can add, remove columns, and you can even input new data into there. So right now I'm going to go ahead and see what metadata was included. A lot of different options here. I'm going to select part number, but I'm just going to leave this out. I just want to show that you can customize this and include whatever information you want in that table. So I'm going to save that off, and now when I go ahead and select in that table, it's going to highlight that part green. You can select another one. That one's not very good. There we go. So that mainframe now is very clear, indicating that that's the part I'm selecting inside my table. The next thing I want to do is import those views that were contained inside my CAD system for this CAD model. So again, I just draw the size of my carousel. It's very quickly going to pull in all those views. So again, now I get to control how many views I want, how many rows, how many columns. I can change the position of these views and where they appear and kind of shift those. So I can grab my isometric and move that all the way to the top. So again, just customize this. I can change the color, the font, the size. If you want more details, we have YouTube videos that go over this in much more depth. So one of the tools I showed earlier is the 3D commenting tool, and this really becomes valuable when you have a visible view carousel down there to see that view or that comment. So again, I'm just going to type in what material is this, select OK. That automatically is going to save this a new view, but I can't see that in my carousel now. So I'm going to go back in and edit that view that I just created, turn that on. I want to push that all the way to the top so that whoever receives this inside Acrobat Reader, that's the first thing they're going to see. So we're going to go ahead and save our changes, and we'll go back to our different view, and we can quickly access that comment view that I just created and all of our other views that are down here as well. So the last thing I want to do for this sample is go ahead and create an action onto one of these buttons. Again, these are all buttons or icons that you choose. Here we're changing the rendering mode to solid outline. We're going to save that off, and I'm going to do one more here in a second for creating illustration mode on one of these buttons as well. So again, we come back into our action panel, change that to illustration, and select save. So now these are no longer going to be just icons, they have an action embedded behind that. So it's going to change my render mode from illustration to solid outline. And once you create this template, it's not necessary to recreate this every time. You create it once and populate it with new CAD data. So I'm going to come in and grab a new CAD file. This time I'm going to grab one of these compressed PRC files. That's our format that's used inside Converter that really makes that compressed down to, as I mentioned, 95, 98% of the original CAD file size. So this is going to take a little bit longer. It's going to populate a new 3D model. It's going to populate my bill of materials with new information. Right now it's pulling in all those views, and at the end we'll have a new model, a new template, but with all those other interactive elements still remaining. So my table's still working, my views are still working, but I'm not getting any material, any metadata populating into those text fields down there, and I haven't set up an action for that. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quickly. Say I want to add an action onto this 3D part. I want to populate text into a field. So we'll go ahead and select price, but we only have the computed name for this model, and I mentioned we have the ability to import that information from an outside system like our ERP or PLM. So I'm going to come in and say I want to add my 3D attributes. This is just an XML file. Select open. It tells me that it was successful. It applied 40 attributes to each one of those parts. So now I'm going to come back in, try this action again, and say select on the 3D part, set text and fields. Now I want to update this price. I have that information now. All that metadata is accessible. We'll just do two here real quick. Add material, and we'll save and call that good. So now when I come through and select on these different parts within the model, it's going to go ahead and populate the different pricing information, the different materials, all that information that we want the user to have quick, easy access to is still contained inside the document. And you can see it's active in my bill of materials. Our rendering modes are still saved. So the idea is that you spend the time creating this, even though this one only took 5 minutes to create, you spend a little bit more time creating a really good template that's designed for a specific work group, and then you can just repopulate this with new CAD data as you move forward. And one thing that we're not going to demo, but that I'd like to talk about is Tetra4D Automate. And what this is a solution that is a server-end solution to automatically create not the template, but to populate those templates with new CAD data. So again, the tool that you saw to create that template was Tetra4D Enrich. That created all those interactive elements like the bill of materials, the view carousel. That comes with Tetra4D Converter. Converter can also be purchased on its own, and that is strictly the CAD data translation to 3D PDF, reading over those 20 major CAD formats. And then lastly, Automate, which is either done on an on-demand or typically in a watch folder, where you set up a template and it drives all of that CAD data from your PLM system into that template. So this is our Tetra4D product portfolio. So I hope you guys found the demo useful, and Phil's going to tell us a little bit more about the 3D PDF Consortium and who's interested in using 3D PDF.
Yeah, so just a few words about the consortium. We are a worldwide community of organizations that represent different engineering practices and engineering software. This year, we're going to become the standards body for PDF. So we will be the administrator of all the PDF standards. That includes PDF and PDF engineering and PDF archive. There's a whole bunch of different standards that are very useful if you're looking to future-proof all of your engineering data. And in the next month, we're going to be actually publishing a set of best practices, and so we're going to be publishing more of those in the future. This one will be around using 3D PDF specifically for these technical data packages. So if you're interested in 3D PDF or have questions, please visit our website. We have a bunch of different resources there that will help you understand a little bit about what's going on in 3D PDF today.
Great. Thank you, Phil. All right, so that's it that we have for the webinar. We're going to open it up for questions here in a moment. But if you want to find out more information, you can email me directly or Phil. All of our information is provided up there. If you happen to be in Orlando in a week, I will be at the co-event in Orlando from April 24th to the 26th. And we will also be exhibiting at Siemens PLM World from May 8th to the 11th. So Barbara, do you want to go ahead and open it up to some questions?
Absolutely. Okay, number one, can 3D PDF be viewed on mobile devices?
Yes, so one thing that we didn't talk about is that we have a couple different viewers that we've developed from TechSoft 3D. One's been out there for a few years, and that's capable of just reading the 3D scene that we showed in that first sample on mobile devices. That's available for Android and for iOS, but what that's not capable of doing is reading the entire PDF document. So for example, with that bill of materials that we had in there with the view carousel, the TechSoft 3D PDF Reader currently doesn't support that. We have a Tetra4D Reader that does support that. It's currently in beta and it's available for Android platform, and that will consume enriched documents that were created with that enriched tool. So you can consume the entire PDF if it's created with Enrich to have your bill of materials and those custom templates, or if you just want to read the 3D from a 3D PDF file, we have a solution for that, and they're both free and available inside the App Store.
All right, good. And here's another question. Do I need a special 3D version of Acrobat to view 3D PDF?
No, actually, starting with, there was Adobe Acrobat 8 was the first version that began to use 3D PDF. So anything after that. We do recommend that you use Reader DC. They've made a number of changes over the years that make it probably the best version for reading and viewing 3D PDF files. But certainly anything from 8 onward is all 3D capable.
And just a quick follow-up, so with our Tetra tools, those are plugins to Acrobat 11 and DC Professional, but any 3D PDF that's produced is consumed on the free Adobe Reader. So you have to have a licensed version of Acrobat Professional and our tools to create these, or you have to have the free Adobe Reader to consume them. So pay to create and free to consume.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. And how much does Tetra cost?
So our products range, the converter tool that you saw, which is the CAD data translation, that's a $500 plugin to Acrobat Professional, and that includes maintenance and support. and the enrich tool that you saw is 1,750, and that also includes the license of converter and also the enrich tool as well for 1,000, and maintenance for the enrich and converter tools. Excuse me.
All right, pretty cool. And somebody's asking, can I get a 3D PDF back into my CAD system?
So that's a good question. The 3D PDF contains all the data, so you can make it contain geometry and topology and all that data you would need for an interoperable solution. But there aren't really any CAD systems that read that today. So the answer is the format supports that, but there's no CAD systems that can read the 3D PDF data today. We tend to think of 3D PDF more as an end document, more as a digital paper, than it is an interop file format as it's used today. So no, right now there are no tools that will read it back directly into a CAD system. You can export in using 3D PDF Converter. You can go, or Tetra4D Converter, excuse me. You can go ahead and export that to a CAD format or STEP or anything else you wanted. But reading directly from the PDF file is not something that's supported by any of the CAD systems today.
Okay, okay, good. That was honest. And how secure is 3D PDF?
So arguably, PDF is one of the most secure file formats in the world today. It's used by every major government, every major financial and legal institution, because it has all those security features. Like I said, password protection, encryption, certificate protection. We find it to be extremely, extremely secure, and very trustworthy.
Thank you so much. I think that was it for questions. Unless keep asking, we're here. We'll stick around another couple of minutes. And thank you to these two Mythbusters. You guys did a great job. And I'm taking the screen back in the meantime. So, if questions come in, I'll still be able to see them, and maybe we'll address them. We'll leave a couple of questions. Okay, let me see. You should be able to see my screen. And I want to thank everybody that attended today. And I want to remind you to visit our webpage at novedge.com and to get a closer look at all the Tetra4D products, Enrich, Converter. They're all there, all listed. You can have all the technical spec and, of course, the best price out there. And I want to remind you also to join us on our network of Facebook, Google+, Twitter, to get the latest news on special new releases. And next week, our webinar will be for interior designer. And it's not just kitchen design, mind you, with the CAD guru, Jonathan Pickup. And to rewatch today's webinar or previous ones, check out our Novedge YouTube and Vimeo channels. We have webinars for every software taste, believe me. Thanks again to the TechSoft team, and wonderful presentation today. It was a great pleasure working with you guys, and looking forward to the next webinar already. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Barbara. Bye-bye.
Barbara, bye.
Bye-bye.